The stars stretched across the sky like a silver river, and the human ship Endeavor moved steadily through the vast darkness. Captain Elia's heart stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view beyond the glass. It had taken humanity decades to reach this point. Humanity had finally left the cradle of Earth, traveling beyond the solar system to explore the stars, to meet the unknown. And now Vyrlia lay ahead, a planet untouched by human influence, a world rumored to hold life unlike any other. Elias had learned long ago that exploration was not just about discovery, it was about understanding, about showing respect to those who came before. The crew felt the same way. They were ready for whatever awaited them, but none of them could predict the strange and beautiful world that would soon open before their eyes. Vyrlia's atmosphere shimmered with colors that no human eye had ever seen. When the Endeavor entered orbit, the planet glowed with iridescent forests, crystalline spires that rose like towers of light, and rivers that reflected the stars above. It was breathtaking. Every crew member felt it, the kind of awe that made words seem small and thoughts seem larger. "Captain, we have visual confirmation of intelligent life," Lieutenant Mara Jensen said. Her voice was calm, but Elias could hear the excitement beneath it. The sensors had picked up complex energy patterns, structures of a design far beyond anything humans had built. Elias nodded. "Keep scanning. Let's learn what we can before we make contact. I don't want to frighten them." He understood that first impressions could change everything. Humanity had a reputation across the galaxy for being bold, sometimes reckless, but Elias believed in kindness and patience. As the ship descended toward Vyrlia, the crew could see the city more clearly. The towers were made of translucent crystal that refracted light into every color of the rainbow. Alien beings moved among the spires, their shapes elegant and unusual, with limbs that curved like living sculptures. Their skin glowed faintly, casting soft lights across their surroundings. Every movement seemed to carry purpose and intelligence. When the Endeavor landed on a plateau near the city, the humans disembarked carefully. They had suits for protection, but there was no danger yet, only wonder. The air smelled sweet, like a mixture of flowers and minerals. Strange plants swayed gently in the wind, though there was no visible breeze. Every step the humans took was met with curiosity from the alien citizens, who stopped and observed, tilting their heads and making soft, melodic sounds that no human could understand. And then she appeared, the alien queen. She descended from the tallest spire on a platform of crystal that seemed to float above the ground. Her form was unlike any human imagination, tall and regal, yet delicate in ways that made her presence feel both commanding and fragile. Her eyes were large and luminous, reflecting the light of the twin suns, and her movements were precise, almost like a dance. Yet despite her beauty, she carried an expression of sadness, a quiet heaviness that Elias noticed immediately. The queen's attendants bowed and emitted soft sounds, which seemed to signal a ceremony or greeting. The humans responded with measured respect, stepping forward with open hands. Elias led the crew, his heart steady, though his mind raced with questions. How would this alien leader perceive humans? Would they welcome them or see them as intruders? The queen's voice carried clearly, though the humans could not understand the words. A translator, designed to adapt to thought patterns, began converting her speech into English. "I am the Queen of Vyrlia," the device said. "You may approach, but know that I have seen many visitors come and leave. Some bring gifts, some bring harm. Show your intentions clearly." Her gaze was intense, but it did not feel hostile. Instead, it was curious. After what felt like an eternity, she inclined her head slightly. "You speak with sincerity," the translator said. "We will observe you. Let your actions speak more than words." The aliens did not interfere, yet the atmosphere was filled with tension. This was a first contact that could shape the future of human and alien relations for generations. As they approached the city, they noticed the queen withdrawing slightly. Elias realized she seemed uncomfortable in her own skin, as though the eyes of her subjects weighed upon her. It was unusual to see a leader of her stature so self-conscious, but humans often recognize the quiet struggles of others. Elias decided to respond not with authority, but with gentleness. One of the alien children approached the humans, curious and unafraid. It had luminescent patterns along its arms and a wide, innocent gaze. Elias knelt slightly and smiled at the child, a simple, warm gesture that did not demand attention but offered comfort. The child mirrored the smile, its eyes lighting up with recognition and delight. From the tower above, the queen noticed the interaction. Her heart stirred in a way she did not understand. She had spent her life in the shadow of perfection, surrounded by subjects who admired her power but rarely understood her true feelings. And here was a human, a stranger, showing something she had rarely seen, a smile given freely without expectation, without judgment. The queen turned away for a moment, hiding her own face, unsure why this simple act had affected her so deeply. She had called herself ugly countless times, comparing herself to the ideal her society praised. Yet the human's gentle smile hinted at a truth she had never embraced, that beauty was not only in perfection or appearance, but in kindness and courage. Elias guided his crew through the streets, observing everything. They noted the technology, the way the aliens lived in harmony with their environment, and the subtle rituals that governed their society. Unlike other civilizations humans had read about, these aliens were not violent conquerors. They valued order and knowledge, yet the queen's expression suggested she bore a heavy burden beneath the surface. The crew reached the edge of the central plaza, where the crystal spires formed a circle around a fountain that shimmered with colored water. Elias studied it, noticing that the water's flow was controlled not by machinery, but by some form of energy he could not yet understand. It was both beautiful and functional, much like the society that had built it. One of the alien ministers approached, their form sleek and angular. The translator conveyed a polite, questioning tone. "Why do you come to Violia? What do you seek?" "We wish only to coexist and grow together." Throughout the day, humans and aliens observed one another, learning and teaching in small ways. A human engineer helped stabilize a minor energy conduit, showing her methods to an alien apprentice. The queen watched from above, noting how humans did not seek praise for their efforts. They helped because it was right. The realization that courage and goodness could be more impressive than beauty or power began to take root in her mind. As night fell, Violia's twin moons cast soft silver light across the city. The glow of the crystal spires mingled with the moons, creating an atmosphere that seemed almost magical. Humans gathered near the fountain, tired but filled with wonder. Elias looked up at the tower where the queen stood, noticing her gaze fixed on the smiling human child who had first approached them. Something had shifted. The queen, who had called herself ugly for as long as she could remember, felt the first stirrings of something new. She could not name it yet. Perhaps it was hope. Perhaps it was curiosity. Or perhaps it was the recognition that beauty might exist in ways she had never imagined, not in the symmetry of her face or the perfection of her form, but in courage, kindness, and the simple act of sharing a smile. Elias, unaware of the full impact he had made, finally turned toward his crew. "We've made it," he said quietly. "And it looks like Violia is ready to teach us as much as we hope to teach it." The queen, hidden in the tower's glow, watched once more, silently acknowledging that the simplest human gestures might one day change her world entirely. And somewhere deep inside, she wondered what it would feel like to smile the way humans smiled, freely and without fear. The stars above seemed to twinkle a little brighter that night, as if reflecting the first glimmer of a connection that might change the future of two worlds forever. The morning sun of Violia rose slowly, painting the crystal towers with shades of gold and rose. Captain Elias Hart and his crew stood near the plaza fountain, preparing to begin their first full day on the alien planet. Despite the wonders they had witnessed the previous day, the humans knew that building trust would require patience, understanding, and care. The queen watched silently from her tower. Her thoughts lingered on the human who had smiled at the alien child. There was something about that gesture that stayed with her, a warmth she could not name. She could not understand why such a simple thing, a smile, could touch her so deeply, yet she found herself drawn to it, thinking of it even as she met with her council. Elias led his crew toward one of the city's wide walkways, where the alien citizens were beginning their daily routines. The humans moved carefully, speaking softly, observing without interfering. Every human gesture was intentional, open hands, calm movements, and respectful glances. They did not want to frighten or offend, and the aliens noticed this. Curiosity replaced suspicion in many of the citizens' faces. An alien apprentice approached Elias, its glowing eyes wide with interest. "Why do you move like this?" it asked through the translator. "Your gestures are different from our own. Why do you not command or assert? Strange can be good." Later, Elias and his crew were invited to a demonstration of Violian technology. The aliens had machines that floated without wheels, lights that pulsed with energy, and devices that seemed almost alive. Yet despite the wonders, Elias noticed something unusual. The technology, while advanced, seemed rigid, lacking flexibility in certain situations. Humans, by contrast, thrived in improvisation. When a minor malfunction occurred in one of the devices, a crystal conduit that powered a small section of the city, Elias knelt to examine it. With careful hands and clear thought, he adjusted the flow of energy using a method humans had developed for electrical systems back on Earth. The device responded immediately, stabilizing and glowing brighter than before. The alien engineers watched in awe. The Queen herself observed from her tower. She could not deny it. Humans were clever, but their cleverness was not just in technology. It was in their adaptability, in their ability to solve problems without fear, without arrogance, and without harming others. "You are different," one of the ministers said cautiously to Elias. "Your methods are unusual but effective. Why do you not boast when you succeed?" She had called herself ugly countless times, believing that her worth was tied to how she looked. Now she began to question that belief. Perhaps strength, courage, and kindness were the true measures of beauty. As the day continued, humans and aliens interacted in small groups. The humans observed the city, learning about Virelian culture and daily life, while also offering assistance where needed. When a group of alien children struggled to construct a protective barrier around a crystal sapling, Elias and his crew helped, working alongside them patiently. The children laughed and cheered as the barrier took shape, their glowing eyes shining with delight. The Queen watched silently. She had never smiled freely in public. Yet seeing the humans' gentle guidance, seeing their willingness to help without expectation, she felt something new, a flicker of warmth, a desire to be part of this kind of world. For the first time, she wondered what it might feel like to smile, not for duty but for joy. During a break, Elias found himself alone in a quiet courtyard. He noticed the Queen observing him from a balcony. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. To his surprise, she inclined her head in acknowledgement, though her expression remained guarded. "You are always watching," Elias said softly, more to himself than to her. "But that is natural. Curiosity keeps worlds alive." The crystal towers pulsed with light as the energy flowed unevenly through the city's structures. Citizens gasped, but Elias moved quickly. He examined the ground and the conduits, recognizing a natural imbalance in the energy patterns. "Follow my lead," he instructed, gesturing to his crew. Together, they guided citizens to safety, adjusting minor energy flows to prevent damage. Their actions were precise, coordinated, and calm, preventing panic from spreading. The Queen observed with a mixture of awe and something she could not name. These humans, small and fragile by her standards, had saved her city without force, without dominance, and without seeking glory. They acted out of care and responsibility. She realized then that courage and strength were not measured by appearance, size, or status, but by action and heart. When the tremor subsided, the citizens began to murmur among themselves. Some of the ministers looked at the Queen, expecting her to assert authority, but she did not move immediately. Instead, she watched the humans, their calm expressions, their steady hands, and the kindness in their eyes. She felt a quiet admiration she could not suppress. Later, Elias and his crew joined a group of aliens near the city's river. Humans and aliens shared ideas about problem-solving, resource management, and community organization. The Queen observed from above, noticing how humans listened to every opinion, valued every voice, and worked together to reach solutions. She recalled the moments when she had called herself ugly, comparing herself to others, feeling inadequate despite her power. Now she realized that such thoughts were meaningless in the face of true strength. The humans had taught her without words that beauty was not a measure of perfection, but a reflection of courage, empathy, and kindness. As evening fell, Elias found himself walking near a grove of luminous trees. The air was filled with soft hums of energy, like a gentle song. The Queen descended quietly to a nearby terrace, observing him from a distance. She was hesitant, unsure how to approach, but drawn by a desire to understand. Elias noticed her presence and gave a small nod of acknowledgement, a silent greeting that did not demand anything in return. The Queen felt her chest tighten, a strange emotion she could not name. She wanted to speak, to understand, yet she feared revealing herself. "You are different from any being I have met," she said finally, her voice soft, carried by the translator. "You do not seek to dominate or to impress. You act with care and courage. Why?" "That is what we call beauty." The humans remained on Virelia for several more hours, sharing ideas, learning, and helping. The Queen observed silently, her thoughts filled with a mixture of awe, curiosity, and a quiet longing. She had never felt this way before, and it frightened her. Yet it also filled her with hope, a hope that perhaps she could be more than what she had believed, that perhaps she could embrace a new way of seeing herself and her people. As night settled, the twin moons cast silver light over the city, and the crystal towers glowed softly. Elias and his crew prepared to return to the Endeavor, tired but fulfilled. The queen remained on her terrace, watching them leave. She felt a strange sense of gratitude, though she did not yet know how to express it. For the first time in her life, she thought about smiling, not for duty, not for ceremony, but simply because she wanted to. The memory of the human child's smile, of Elia's gentle guidance, stayed with her, warming something deep within her. The stars above seemed brighter, reflecting in the queen's eyes, and for a moment she allowed herself to imagine a world where her people could see her not just as a ruler, but as someone capable of kindness, courage, and beauty beyond appearance. And somewhere in the distance, Elias looked back at the glowing towers, unaware of the profound effect he had already had. The seeds of change had been planted in the heart of a queen who had once called herself ugly. All it had taken was patience, courage, and a simple, gentle smile. The calm morning on Violia shattered suddenly. A deep rumble echoed across the city, shaking the crystal towers and sending vibrations through the streets. Humans and aliens alike stumbled, grasping at nearby supports. The twin suns hung in the sky as if frozen, and for a moment silence filled the air. Then another, sharper tremor followed, and alarms echoed through the city. Captain Elias Hart and his crew were quick to react. The humans had trained for emergencies, but this was unlike any scenario they had anticipated. The ground beneath the crystal spires quivered, and some smaller towers began to sway dangerously. Panic threatened to spread among the alien citizens, many of whom had never experienced a natural disaster of this scale. Elias turned to his crew. "Stay calm. Observe first, then act. We help without causing more panic." His voice was firm, yet calm, radiating confidence that grounded the humans and reassured the aliens nearby. The queen appeared atop the central spire, her eyes scanning the trembling city. She had faced crises before, but never one like this. Normally, her control over her people and the energy structures of the city ensured order. Now the forces of nature seemed indifferent to her commands. For the first time, she felt powerless, and a pang of fear struck her heart. She hated feeling weak. Elias moved among the citizens, guiding them to safer areas. His crew followed, moving in synchronized steps, coordinating with alien officials who could communicate more easily with the population. The humans quickly assessed the danger. The crystal towers relied on a network of energy flows that had been destabilized by a sudden tectonic shift. If the flow broke entirely, many towers could collapse and lives would be lost. A tremor rocked the city again, louder this time. Crystal dust filled the air, and citizens cried out, some frozen in fear. Elias knelt near a conduit that had begun to crack. "I need access to the main control nodes," he said, speaking to one of the alien engineers. "Can you guide me?" Their methods were unconventional, blending observation, intuition, and improvisation. It was something the aliens had never seen before, a combination of courage and adaptability that produced results quickly. The queen watched from above, her chest tight. She had always believed she had to be perfect, that failure was a mark of ugliness, of weakness. Yet here were humans, risking themselves without hesitation, acting decisively in a situation no one could have fully predicted. And they did it not for glory, but because it was right. The realization stirred something deep within her. Strength was not measured by appearances or control. It was measured by courage, by heart, and by the willingness to help others. Elias climbed carefully along the edge of a fractured platform, adjusting energy conduits with his hands. Sparks flew and the air hummed with energy. An alien child clung to the edge of a safe zone nearby, frightened but observing. Elias smiled gently at the child. "You'll be safe, trust us," he said softly. The child's eyes widened in awe, reflecting both fear and hope. The queen felt her chest tighten as she watched. That simple act, a smile, a calm voice, a promise to protect, moved her in ways she could not explain. She had thought beauty was symmetry, perfection, elegance. Now she realized that beauty could also exist in courage, in kindness, in the ability to protect life even when it trembled on the edge of disaster. Another tremor shook the city, larger this time. One of the smaller towers began to crack at its base. Without hesitation, Elias grabbed support structures and directed alien workers to reinforce the foundation with temporary energy stabilizers. His crew moved beside him, coordinating with alien engineers to prevent collapse. The Queen descended partway, observing the humans more closely. She felt a strange pull to be near them, to understand what gave them such calm in the face of danger. She had led armies, managed disasters, and faced countless crises, yet these humans moved with a clarity and courage that she had never known. Their hearts, she realized, were as strong as any power she had ever commanded. Hours passed. The humans and aliens worked tirelessly. Ilia's coordinated efforts across the city, giving precise instructions while trusting the abilities of his alien counterparts. Slowly, the tremors subsided and the energy flows stabilized. The damaged towers, while weakened, remained upright. Citizens emerged cautiously, their fear giving way to relief. They had witnessed the humans' bravery firsthand, and whispers of admiration rippled through the crowd. The Queen approached Ilias after the immediate danger had passed. Her steps were careful, her eyes filled with curiosity and something else, something like gratitude, though she could not yet name it. "You and your people, you risked yourselves for us," she said softly, her voice carrying the translator's gentle tones. "Why do you act this way? You are fragile compared to us, yet you showed courage beyond measure. Life is precious, and helping others is what makes it meaningful." Now she began to see another truth. True strength, true beauty lay in courage, kindness, and the willingness to help others. Later, the humans helped citizens clear debris, repair energy conduits, and restore daily life. The Queen observed quietly from a nearby tower, her mind racing. She had always led by power and authority, commanding respect through fear or admiration. But here she saw respect earned through action, through heart, through humility. She felt a quiet yearning to be like that, not just a ruler but a protector, a guide, a source of courage. A child approached the Queen hesitantly. The Queen looked down at the small glowing eyes, and for the first time she felt a smile tug at her lips. She remembered the human who had smiled at the alien child the day before. Something inside her shifted, and she allowed herself to mirror that simple, gentle expression. The child's eyes lit up, reflecting pure joy. The Queen realized, with a small, quiet wonder, that she had never felt truly beautiful before. Not in her body, not in her title, but in this moment, through her action and her connection. Ilias, unaware of the Queen's personal transformation, continued coordinating the restoration efforts. His calm presence inspired both humans and aliens alike. Where fear had once reigned, confidence now spread. Citizens began to imitate his actions, helping each other, smiling despite the fear they had felt. The humans had taught them, not through words alone, but through example, that courage and kindness could change the atmosphere of an entire city. By nightfall, the city had been stabilized. Citizens returned to their homes, exhausted but relieved. The Queen remained on a high terrace, looking out over the glowing towers. She reflected on the day, the tremors, the fear, the human courage, and the small moments of connection that had left a lasting impression on her heart. For the first time, she understood that beauty was not perfection, that worth was not measured by appearances, and that leadership was not simply command but compassion. She thought of Ilias, of the child he had comforted, and of her own small, tentative smile. A single human, through patience and gentleness, had begun to change the world she had ruled for centuries. As she turned to her council, she felt a new confidence. She would face her people tomorrow not only as their ruler, but as someone who understood a deeper kind of beauty, one that came from courage, from heart, and from action. The humans had shown her a way she had never imagined. Ilias, preparing to return to the Endeavor, looked back at the city one last time. He did not yet know the full effect he had had on the Queen, but he had planted a seed of trust, admiration, and change. He smiled softly, feeling the quiet satisfaction of knowing that humanity's values, simple and true, had made a difference in a world far beyond Earth. The Queen watched him go, the memory of his gentle smile etched deeply in her mind. A world that had once seemed so rigid, so dependent on appearances and control, was beginning to change. And she who had called herself ugly for so long realized that she had been blind to the real measure of beauty all along. Above, the twin moons reflected off the crystal towers, their light mingling with the glow of the repaired energy flows. The city was safe, for now. But more importantly, a quiet revolution had begun, not of weapons or power, but of courage, empathy, and the gentle, unwavering strength of humanity. The Queen closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself feel the wonder of it all. She could not yet fully name the feeling, but it was warm, uplifting, and profoundly moving. Perhaps it was hope. Perhaps it was gratitude. Or perhaps it was the first understanding that true beauty and true strength could coexist, and that a single smile, freely given, could start a change that no power or title could achieve. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had arrived not to conquer, not to dominate, but to teach something far more powerful, a lesson in courage, kindness, and the quiet, undeniable beauty of the heart. The morning light of Violia was softer than usual, as if the twin suns themselves were cautious, careful not to disturb the fragile calm that had returned to the city. The crystal towers reflected gentle beams across the streets, and citizens moved with purpose, rebuilding what the tremors had disturbed. Yet beneath the orderly activity, something had changed. A quiet sense of hope lingered in the air, an invisible current that tugged at hearts and minds alike. The queen walked among her citizens for the first time without the heavy weight of ceremony. Her steps were measured but calm, her posture regal yet approachable. She had spent her life leading with authority, often relying on her presence to command respect. Today, she felt a new sense of understanding, an awareness that respect could be earned not only through power but through compassion, guidance, and courage. Captain Elia's heart and his crew had returned to the city early, eager to continue helping. The humans moved among the citizens, showing them practical ways to stabilize the crystal spires and improve the energy flows. Unlike the Queen's formal commands, the humans' methods were gentle, collaborative, and hands-on. They worked alongside aliens, demonstrating techniques, teaching problem-solving skills, and encouraging teamwork. The Queen watched silently at first, then began to move closer, drawn by curiosity and a desire to understand. She observed Elias as he adjusted an energy conduit with a careful hand, speaking softly to an alien apprentice who watched him intently. His movements were precise yet calm. There was no rush, no demand, only patient guidance. "You have taught much already," the Queen said finally, speaking through the translator. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Why do you continue? Your people could rest, yet you choose to help further." "We do not measure our worth by what we take or accomplish alone. We measure it by what we share, by how we help others, and by the courage we show when it is needed most." She felt a quiet stirring in her chest, a realization that she had been blind to the true meaning of strength. Throughout the day, the humans helped to repair several damaged crystal spires. Their approach was methodical and thoughtful, blending human engineering with Violian technology. When one spire's energy conduit threatened to overload, Elias coordinated a delicate procedure with the alien engineers, directing them to reroute the flow and stabilize the structure. It worked perfectly. The spire shone brighter than before, a symbol of resilience and cooperation. The citizens cheered softly, and the Queen allowed herself a small, tentative smile. It was the first time she had smiled freely in public, without ceremony or expectation. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a sense of connection she had never experienced before. Observing the humans, she realized that true beauty was not about appearance or perfection. It was about courage, kindness, and the willingness to act for the good of others. Later, Elias gathered a group of human and alien engineers in the central plaza. They discussed ways to reinforce the city against future tremors, integrating human problem-solving techniques with Violian energy systems. Citizens watched with fascination, seeing humans and aliens working together in harmony. The Queen observed from a nearby terrace, her eyes reflecting the light of the crystal towers. She realized that cooperation, patience, and mutual respect could create results far more lasting than fear or dominance ever could. As the day progressed, the Queen found herself drawn to Elias again. She approached him quietly, careful not to interrupt his work. "You have shown us much," she said softly. "Your people, your way, it is unlike anything we have known. You see value not in power or beauty, but in action and heart. How can this be?" "And beauty is in the care we show, the kindness we give, and the love we share, even in small gestures." For the first time, she understood that she had been judging herself by the wrong standard. She had called herself ugly because she compared herself to impossible ideals, but the humans had shown her a different truth, that real beauty comes from courage, compassion, and action. Inspired by this realization, the Queen decided to take part in the work herself. She descended to the plaza, her movements graceful and deliberate. She approached a damaged energy conduit that had been repaired earlier but needed further stabilization. Citizens and alien engineers watched in awe as she worked alongside the humans, her hands steady, her focus unwavering. "Queen, you must be careful," one of her ministers exclaimed. "I am careful," she replied calmly. "And I wish to help. Leadership is not only giving orders, it is sharing responsibility." Throughout the afternoon, the Queen continued to work with humans and aliens, guiding repairs, encouraging citizens, and learning from Elias. Every small success strengthened her confidence and reshaped her self-image. The citizens, in turn, began to see their ruler differently, not as a distant figure of perfection, but as someone capable of courage, empathy, and connection. As evening approached, the city was transformed. The crystal towers glowed with renewed energy, the streets were orderly, and citizens moved with a sense of pride and hope. The humans had taught them more than repair techniques. They had shown them a new way to see themselves, to value courage, and to embrace kindness. The Queen stood on a terrace overlooking the plaza, her gaze lingering on Elias and his crew. She felt a quiet gratitude and a sense of possibility she had never known. For centuries, she had ruled with authority and intellect, but now she realized that true leadership required heart as well as mind. She felt a small smile tug at her lips, one that was genuine, unguarded, and entirely her own. Elias approached her, noticing the subtle change in her expression. "You have learned much today," he said softly, "not only about your city and people, but about yourself. That is the beginning of everything. Change starts with understanding and grows with action. You have the courage to lead not just with power, but with heart. That is the kind of leadership the world needs." She felt pride not in their obedience, but in their courage and cooperation. And she realized that she had been part of creating this change, guided by humans who had shown her what true strength and beauty meant. That night, the Queen returned to her private chamber, her thoughts restless but full of hope. She reflected on the humans' actions, their patience, their courage, and their gentle smiles. She thought of Elias, of his unwavering calm, and of the way he had inspired her people without demanding anything in return. She realized that a single human's simple gestures had started a transformation that would ripple across her entire civilization. She stood by the window, looking out at the glowing city below. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel proud of who she was, not for her appearance, not for her title, but for the courage she had found within herself, and for the hope she could inspire in others. She thought of the child who had smiled at her the day before, and she smiled in return, small and genuine. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. One of her attendants entered quietly. "Your Highness," the attendant said softly, "the humans wish to speak with you before they leave for the night." The lights of the crystal towers shimmered softly, reflecting the new energy of cooperation and hope that filled the city. "You have changed much here today," the Queen said, her voice steady. "Not through force, not through command, but through your actions, your courage, and your kindness. You have taught me that strength and beauty are not what I thought they were." "We are all teachers and learners," he replied. "We show what we can, and we hope others will see the same. The courage and care your people have shown today are as much yours as anyone's. You led them by example, just as you have led us in understanding your world." Now she began to understand that true beauty was not in perfection, but in courage, empathy, and action. And true leadership was not in authority alone, but in guiding and inspiring others through heart and example. As the humans prepared to leave, the Queen stepped forward and extended her hand. Elias took it gently, and their eyes met. In that moment, no words were needed. A silent understanding passed between them, that a single human, through patience, courage, and a gentle smile, had begun to change an entire world. Above the city, the twin moons reflected in the crystal towers, casting soft light on the plaza. The citizens of Violia watched silently from their windows and streets, sensing the subtle change in their queen. And in her heart, the Queen felt something she had not felt in centuries, a quiet, unwavering hope and the first true sense of her own beauty. The night was calm, but the city had been transformed forever. Not by technology alone, not by power or perfection, but by courage, kindness, and the simple, gentle strength of humanity. And somewhere deep within her, the Queen knew that this was only the beginning of a new era, for herself, her people, and for the bond she had begun to form with those extraordinary visitors from Earth. The sun rose over Violia with a gentle glow, casting long beams of light across the city's crystal towers. The streets were alive with quiet activity, citizens moving with purpose yet with a newfound sense of calm. The tremors of recent days had subsided, leaving behind a city rebuilt not just in structure, but in spirit. The Queen walked among her people, her presence calm and approachable, her eyes reflecting both authority and warmth. Captain Elia's Hart and his crew had arrived early to complete the final phase of their mission, sharing techniques to reinforce Virelia's city and guide the aliens in long-term resilience. Yet the humans found that their role was becoming less about teaching and more about witnessing the changes their presence had inspired. The Queen had already begun implementing their lessons, combining human ingenuity with Virelian energy mastery in ways even the humans had not anticipated. The Queen approached Elias quietly, her steps measured yet full of confidence. "You have done more than teach," she said softly. "You have changed my world, not only through guidance and knowledge, but by showing me a truth I had long ignored. Beauty is not appearance, nor is strength only authority. True beauty and true strength are courage, kindness, and the courage to act for others." Citizens worked together not because they were told to, but because they wanted to. They assisted each other in repairing crystal structures, in restoring the delicate energy flows, and in caring for those still shaken by recent events. Cooperation had replaced fear. Respect had replaced doubt. And in the center of it all, the Queen herself stood transformed. Her posture no longer rigid, her expression no longer heavy, she had discovered a confidence and beauty she had never believed possible. Humans and aliens worked side by side, solving the last of the remaining energy issues. Elias demonstrated methods to reinforce the tallest spires against future tremors. Alien engineers watched intently, learning from human problem-solving and improvisation. Children observed, wide-eyed, mimicking the humans' actions in playful yet meaningful ways. The city was alive with learning, collaboration, and shared purpose. The Queen moved among her people, guiding and encouraging them. Citizens paused to smile at her, their expressions reflecting pride, trust, and admiration. She felt the weight of centuries of self-doubt begin to lift. For so long, she had measured her worth by appearance, fearing she was ugly or inadequate. Now she understood that her true value lay not in her form, but in her courage, her care for her people, and her willingness to act with heart. In the central plaza, Elias knelt beside a young apprentice, helping her adjust an energy conduit. The apprentice laughed with delight as it worked correctly under his guidance. The Queen watched, her own eyes lighting up at the sight. For the first time, she smiled openly, freely, and entirely her own. It was a smile not for ceremony, not for duty, but for joy, connection, and understanding. "Queen," Elias said softly, standing beside her, "your people have done remarkable work. You've led them through danger and uncertainty, and you've shown courage and compassion that inspires everyone around you. That is the true measure of a leader. And I will carry this forward, not just in my actions, but in my people's hearts." It was not human direction alone that had inspired this. It was the Queen's visible embrace of courage and kindness, her willingness to act alongside her people, and the humans' quiet demonstration of generosity and empathy. Elias and his crew observed the city with a mixture of pride and awe. They had come to Virelia to learn, to teach, and to build connections. Yet the impact they had made extended far beyond technology or methods. It was the human values of empathy, courage, and gentle strength that had truly transformed the alien world. The Queen approached the humans for a final discussion. "Tomorrow you will leave our planet," she said softly, "and yet your influence will remain. Your guidance, your actions, and your example will continue to shape Virelia's future." She reflected on the days that had passed, the tremors that had tested them all, the moments of fear and uncertainty, the small gestures that carried profound meaning. She thought of the first human smile she had seen, the child who had mirrored it, and the gentle guidance of Captain Elias. Each moment had planted a seed, and now the entire city was blossoming with its effects. Citizens began to gather in the central plaza, sensing the significance of this day. They had been through fear, danger, and uncertainty, yet they had emerged stronger, united, and inspired. They looked to their Queen not with mere admiration, but with respect born from understanding and trust. And the Queen looked back at them, her eyes filled with pride, hope, and a radiant new confidence. She turned to Elias. "Your people have changed my world, and in doing so they have changed me. I no longer see myself as I once did. I am not defined by appearance, nor by the judgment of others. I am defined by my courage, my heart, and the actions I take for those I care for. That is all any of us can hope to achieve, to leave the world a little better than we found it. Courage, kindness, and care are the greatest strengths we possess. Let us carry them forward, not for glory, but for the good of our world and all who dwell within it." They understood that their Queen had changed, and that her leadership would now reflect not only intelligence and authority, but courage, empathy, and genuine care. Elias watched quietly as the queen walked among her people, her smile bright and confident. He realized that humanity's values, simple, gentle, yet profound, had left a mark on this alien world that would last for generations. A single smile, freely given, had sparked a transformation in the heart of a ruler and the society she led. When the humans finally boarded the Endeavor, the queen stood on the terrace, watching them lift off. The twin suns reflected off the crystal towers, casting light across the city like a promise of hope. She felt gratitude, not only for the humans' guidance and courage, but for the lesson they had imparted without words, that beauty and strength are found in heart, in action, and in kindness. As the ship disappeared into the sky, the queen returned to her city with renewed purpose. She walked through the streets, greeting her people, observing their cooperation, and quietly acknowledging the courage and initiative they displayed. Every glance, every smile, and every act of help reminded her that the change they had witnessed was not temporary. It was the beginning of a new era. For the first time, she truly understood that her own beauty was not in the perfection of form or in titles, but in the courage she now carried, in the care she gave, and in the hope she inspired. She realized that by embracing her heart, she had become the leader her people needed, not just in power, but in example. Elias and his crew, drifting farther into the sky, looked back at the glowing towers one final time. They had come to explore, to learn, and to share knowledge. Yet what they had truly shared was humanity itself, patience, empathy, courage, and the quiet power of gentle action. The mark they left would remain, growing silently through generations of Violia, shaping a civilization that understood the strength of heart. Below, the queen stood alone for a moment, looking up at the stars. She closed her eyes and allowed herself to smile fully, freely, and joyfully. The city, her people, and her own heart reflected back the lessons she had learned. She felt whole in a way she never had before, no longer burdened by self-doubt, but uplifted by the knowledge that true strength, true beauty, and true leadership came from heart, courage, and action. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that humanity's gentle influence had forever changed the world of Violia. One simple, patient smile had sparked a transformation that would endure for centuries, reminding everyone that courage and kindness are the greatest powers of all. The twin moons rose high over the city, reflecting light across the crystal towers. Citizens moved with hope, leaders acted with heart, and the queen, once uncertain of her own worth, walked with confidence and pride. A new era had begun, an era of courage, cooperation, and true beauty. And humanity, through its gentle presence and unwavering heart, had shown that even the smallest actions could change the world. Violia would never be the same again. And neither would the queen, who had discovered that the truest measure of strength and beauty lay not in appearances or titles, but in courage, empathy, and the simple, enduring power of a kind heart.